The French snap election is just days away now, and globalist President Emmanuel Macron is panicking. The French socialist is warning that the extreme nationalist right, led by Marine Le Pen and National Rally, could plunge the country into a, quote, civil war. Sound familiar, huh? This is the exact script that the corrupt Biden regime is saying about Donald Trump and his supporters. Macron is being hit hard for his fear-mongering. He called for a historic snap election for parliament after right-wing populists gave left-wing socialists a shellacking in European parliamentary elections earlier this month. Marine Le Pen said Macron's civil war comment was weak and said it showed he thinks he's lost this election, while Eric Ciotti, leader of the conservative Republicans, said this was a strategy of fear. Philippe Hababou Solomon, a candidate for the 8th constituency of French people living abroad, blasted Macron's comments, saying, quote, I strongly condemn the comments of President Macron, who evokes a fear of civil war in France. Even if these fears are real, the role of the president is to be reassuring and unifying and to use all the power of the French law enforcement and the army if necessary to prevent such a situation, but certainly not to create panic among the French populations. The first victims of institutional disorder will be the Jews of France. So Macron is undermining confidence in elections with his reckless comments. But another thing that is compromising the election, potential voting issues. While France predominantly uses paper ballots, something we often applaud the country for doing in its national elections, expats living abroad can use electronic voting. One voter reported that not only did he run into a server issue, but when he tried to fix it, he found out his vote had already been cast. And join me now to discuss the upcoming snap election in France and the peril for Macron's presidency is Philippe Hababou Solomon, a candidate for the 8th constituency, as I noted before, of French people living abroad. And Philippe, you are actively campaigning, and furiously so, I will say. You've been hitting multiple countries and cities in the last few days, and today you join us from Tel Aviv, right?
Hello, thank you for having me on the show. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. You criticize the French president for his comments regarding the right-wing populist movement. It mirrors exactly what we hear about Trump supporters here in the United States. Why do you think Macron is going to this language, labeling them as quote unquote extremists? What does he hope to achieve with these statements?
Well, I believe he hopes to achieve chaos so he can use Article 16 of the Constitution, which will give him the right of having full power, meaning he won't need to get another prime minister. He will be himself ruling the country. So he has been losing support for many years. We had the yellow vests in France protest. His party is losing votes every day, losing support. People are asking him to resign. And when he lost the European elections, he surprised everyone by dissolving the National Assembly, calling this snap election, giving the candidates very, very little time to campaign, knowing that the far right will probably have close to the majority, but no one is projected to have the full majority, which will mean, again, chaos. Don't forget, we have the Olympic Games in Paris in a couple of weeks, and insecurity in France is at its highest, anti-Semitism is at its highest, and there is a loss of control in France on everything.
Let me ask you, you said that he might look to invoke Article 16. Do you really think he would make an authoritarian move should his party not prevail in the snap elections coming in 5 days?
I believe so. I believe so. And that's why, in my opinion, he's preparing with all this panic of possible civil war. All the French TVs are talking only about this possibility of civil war. But I mean, this is France. How can you have civil war in France when you have all the authority of all the law enforcement and the army? There's been fueling in France to get to the situation we're in today. So I do believe he's preparing something.
That's very scary. When you talk to people, you specifically are seeking to represent the constituency of French nationals that live abroad. You just were in Rome, you're in Tel Aviv today. How do they feel? What concerns them about what they're hearing out of the French government, particularly Macron?
Well, depending on the countries, we have different reactions. Um, in Italy, which is led by Mrs. Meloni, which is conservative right, they are supporting Mr. Bardella and his similar party. It's functioning in Italy, so they're hoping it will function in France. But the fact is, nobody wants to give a chance for this party to rule in France. So they're criticizing, they're threatening chaos, they're threatening racialism, all the terrible things that always are threatened against the conservatives. But give them a chance. They might succeed where all the regular and other parties have failed so far in France. In Israel, it's different. In Israel, the country is at war. The country is today divided. I was yesterday at the Israeli parliament. There's a lot of unhappiness in Israel with the current situation. The war has lasted too long, too many lives have been lost, and people are regretting or are crying out that the next elections in the US will bring Donald Trump back into power. Since
They will.
the Abraham Accords, sorry, since the
No, go
Abraham
ahead.
Accords, since the Abraham Accords, nothing has been done to continue normalization with Arab countries. The Biden administration, since they've come in, have created war and chaos. Ukraine, Russia, the war in Gaza, not saying they created the war in Gaza, but the lack of leadership in the US today is creating the situation. So it's a very, very serious situation. Who's responsible? Iran. At the time, Donald Trump was very strong against Iran. Iran's not scared of the Democrats. Don't forget, loads of cash money was sent to Iran by the Obama administration. Where did this money go? This money probably went to fuel and to fund Hezbollah and Hamas. So there is a huge problem with the US, which reflects on the rest of the world.
Well, and not just the Obama administration. Remember, just a short time before the October 7th events, attacks last year, the Biden administration had released billions in dollars of funds to Iran. So
Absolutely.
I would say they're very,
That's right.
very, you could say they are responsible for what happened in
Right.
Gaza, essentially. Let me ask you, do you believe that conservatives will prevail in these snap elections? How are you feeling?
I do believe they will prevail. They might not reach the absolute majority, but once they will be close to the absolute majority, deals can be made. That is why I've gone to this election as an independent. Independent because I'm not a politician. I'm a geopolitician. I am getting involved because of the world situation, because of the war in Gaza, because of the general terrible situation in France. I don't live in France. I'm an expat myself. I live between London and the UAE. So from outside, I decided, I did a snap decision too. And I said, I have to get in. I've got too much experience. I know all the behind the scenes in many situations. So I'm just going to go and say my truth and help and dedicate the rest of my life, or at least as much as possible in the next few years, to try and move things in the right way. I'm just praying that Donald Trump, and I do believe he will win the election in the US. It's a few months ago. And then I will try to use my legitimacy as a member of French Parliament to push things in the Middle East and to bring back peace for all the populations. It's a terrible situation in Israel.
Yeah, it looks just awful. And, I was at the White House. I was in the White House press corps the day of the Abraham Accords. And I remember, so much hope and optimism towards the deal. And I know you worked behind the scenes as well on trying to aid that deal come to pass. Look, we're watching your elections as closely as you all are watching ours. but we'll know about
Absolutely.
yours sooner than ours. So perhaps you can come back and join us once we see the results of that. We can break down what happened and what this means for the future. And safe travels and best wishes headed into this weekend. Thanks, Philippe.
Thank you very much, and I will be back. Thank you.
Well, I've got some good news for you today. If you've been following the $25 extravaganza sale that Mike Lindell has been running, where you could get a king or queen size premium MyPillow for just $25. Well, good news. You can get it for even cheaper. For a limited time, Mike Lindell is offering the premium MyPillow with that fabulous Giza fabric, king or queen size, for just $19.98. That's when you use the promo code TRUTH. So if you've been sitting on the fence about getting the premium MyPillow, now is the time to try it for just $19.98. And of course, he's still running the fabulous $25 extravaganza sale, where you can even get blankets, a 6-pack of MyPillow, bath towels, all that for just $25, and other great products when you use the promo code TRUTH when you go to mypillow.com, or by calling the number 800-944-5396, 800-944-5396, and tell them you want to use the promo code TRUTH. Because not only are you going to get these fabulous deals, but you also, as I've been reminding you, and thanks to Mike Lindell, I don't know how long he's going to offer this great offer to our audience, but when you use promo code TRUTH, you get the MyPillow 2.0 Go Anywhere pillow as a free gift. Now, today we've been talking a lot about authoritarian regimes and where we're headed. You only have to look to our northern neighbor to see exactly what authoritarianism looks like. That's next.